was the Rebbe's 40th wedding anniversary, and it's based on a mimer that the Frierdiker Rebbe had said at the office that the Frierdiker Rebbe said a mimer also titled Mרגלא בפומי דרבא, and the mimer over here as well is based on this. Mרגלא בפומי דרבא, it was customary for Rebbe to say tachlis chach, the tachlis of chachma. So what does it mean tachlis of chachma? Ikara shel Torah. That's what Rashi explains. Rashi. The main idea of Torah is tshuva u'maisim tovim, the tshuva and good deeds. Now, like it says, reish is chachma. The beginning of chachma is the yiras Hashem, the fear of Hashem. Seichel tov l'chol oiseiv. It is good wisdom for all who do it. Why does it say doing it? It doesn't say to those that study the Torah. Seemingly, if he's talking about chachma, if you're talking about Torah, you'll be talking about that it's a seichel tov to all who learn it. But it doesn't say that. It says to those that do it. So we see that the main idea of Torah is the doing of the mitzvah. And the Frierdiker Rebbe explains in his well-known mimer that he said in Shabbos Parshas Vayishlach, which was 40 years prior to this. In Sefer Morim Kuntreisim, it's the reason why the Frierdiker Rebbe has a sefer called Sefer Morim Kuntreisim is because there was different mamorim that the Frierdiker Rebbe gave out in booklet form, and then they were collected into Sefer Morim Kuntreisim Aleph and Beis and Gimel. So there's a kunteris that contains in it the mamorim that the Frierdiker Rebbe said in connection with the Rebbe's chasana. They're all mamorim from Tafresh Peites, mamorim by the chasana itself, by the Shabbat brachos, etc. So over there, in that mimer that was said 40 years before the Rebbe said this mimer. So the Frierdiker Rebbe asks the L'chura in a movement, seemingly it's not understood. Chachma, which is Torah versus Tshuva and good deeds, are totally distinct in their properties. Chachma's idea is understanding and comprehension. Opposed to Tshuva and good deeds is fear of heaven and being frum, which maybe by mimer, like the mimer actually brings a Yiddish terminology to bring this home. It says, Chachma nikras b'lashon ha'olam klug. Chachma in the world is called klug, smart, clever. Tshuva ma'asim tovim nikras b'lashon ha'olam frum, and someone that is possessed of tshuva and good deeds is called, in the world, is called frum. So we see from the very fact that in the world they're called different things, and the world it means different concepts. Being klug is one thing, being frum is a different thing. And if you describe a person as being klug, that doesn't mean necessarily the frum. When you describe someone as being frum, it's not necessarily that they are klug, as we'll soon bring the example. Not only is chach versus tshuva and good deeds distinct in their properties, etc. Even more so, that they are completely separated one from another, totally. How do we see their separation? Like we see with our senses, they are simple people. They say to Hillel with an inner feeling and a broken heart. They're involved in doing good deeds with awe and fear of heaven. Though they have no knowledge and comprehension, they do not have any type of great depth of understanding. They just say it with simplicity. What do we see from this? There could be the idea of tshuva and good deeds, even without the idea of chachma. If so, why say that the goal and the main idea of chachma is tshuva and good deeds? Let's learn another paragraph before we go on. Bottom of the page. Yuvan, this will be understood by first prefacing what the Zohar says. Less machshava tfisa beklal, no thought can grasp him at all. Avol nitpas iu berusa dalib, but he is grasped in the will of the heart. So first, the Rebbe is going to devote a few pages to explaining the first half. What does it mean that no thought can grasp him at all? Then he's going to devote himself to the opposite, where the Eibishter and with what can the Eibush can be grasped. Behind this means to say, Tevas Bey, Koi alatzmusi is bark. When it says no thought can grasp him whatsoever, what is the word him? Bey. Bey is the word him over here, in him. Who is the him? What's the him that's referring to? It's going on Hashem's essence. Up on the next page, or it's the page 12, Namar, concerning the Eibishter's essence. It says, less machshava tfisa beklal, no thought can grasp him whatsoever. Shatzmusi is baruch, ain't in it was klal idea machshava, that Hashem's essence is not at all grasped through thought. Sheklalusa hu inyan aseichel, that in general, thought is the idea of intellect. So now he explains, he's going to break it down. In intellect itself, we know so there are different levels of intellect. The Rebbe is going to go through the different levels of intellect. What are the levels of intellect that we're referring to? The idea behind this is line 4, concerning intellect, machshava, thought. There are two levels, chachma ubina. Veheim ayin v'yesh. Chachma ubina is considered, chachma is considered ayin, and bina is considered yesh. So the Rebbe is going to explain why that is so. He's going to start first from bina. Bina, when you have one of us, because bina is the idea of understanding, and comprehension, grasping a concept. He grasps the idea through its ends, just like in a physical thing. How do I grab hold of something? How am I able to hold something in my hand? Because the item is made up of ends. And that limitation of the ends makes the thing that I'm grasping graspable. But if something didn't have any edges, it didn't have any ends, it just went on and on, there would be nothing to nothing to have purchase with, nothing to grasp. You know about, let's say, people that climb cliffs. So if there's no purchase, if there's no ends, if it's all smooth, there's nothing what to grab onto. So the same thing, just like in a physical grasp, one needs to have ends and edges to be able to grasp it. So too, in the spiritual grasp, when we need to grasp an idea, but the grasping of the idea necessitates that there are limits, there are ends, there's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end, there's certain limitations to it. So bina, which is what we're grasping an idea, so we're grasping it through its ends, meaning shuhu inyan habedida v'agbola, it's the idea of something that's already measured and has a boundary. Therefore, bina is already a level of yesh, because it's already dealing with something that's already been solidified, it's already been made tangible, it's already been limited. So that's why bina is a level of yesh. Chachma, on the other hand, Chachma is the point of the idea that's beyond the understanding and the comprehension. And as we go on in the Maimer, he's going to talk about different levels in the Chachma. Because it's beyond understanding and comprehension, it's considered ayin. Ayin in this context means it's an nekuda belvad, and therefore it's not graspable. It's not graspable. There's no limitations to it. I'll stay up on these two levels from the Seichel. Let's be found in Seichel, Chachma, Bina, Nemar, less Machshavet, Tisbek, Klal. There's no thought I can grasp them whatsoever. Now, Min Hakal El Hakavit, the Rebbe is going to say about the way Chachma cannot grasp Hashem and the way Bina cannot grasp Hashem. We'll work our way up from that which is the more obvious that it can't grasp Hashem to the more complex to be able to understand how even the higher level, which is Chachma, can't grasp Hashem. So first he starts with the simple, line 13. Chinas Bina, the level of Bina, since Bina is about understanding and comprehension, and we said, how do you grasp something? Bina can only grasp, Bina can only understand something because it's measured, it's bounded according to the manner of his comprehension. Therefore, it doesn't grasp at all Hashem's essence. The Eibishter's essence, as we said before, Tfisa Bay in him means his essence. That's beyond comprehension and beyond all measures and boundaries. Something that has no boundaries, something that has no limitations. Therefore, it's like that smooth cliff. It's ungraspable. It has no purchase on it. It's beyond comprehension. Okay, so that's obvious. That's the kal. That's the easy to understand how Bina cannot grasp Hashem's essence. Now let's go to Chachma. Even at the level of Chachma, it's the point of the understanding. It's beyond understanding and comprehension. Even this point of Chachma, let's say the point of the idea, the Barak HaMavrik, the original flash, like the Alter Rebbe calls it in Tanya Perigimel, it afterwards eventually comes down in the understanding and comprehension of Bina. That idea, that point, that Chachma is afterwards translated in Bina, it's broken down in Bina, it's analyzed and so on. The very point of Chachma itself comes afterwards in Bina in explanation and in detail. It's not like Chachma is a cause for Bina and the Chachma remains removed from Bina. Chachma is not just a cause for Bina. Bina does not just come out of Chachma. It's that the Chachma itself, that very point, is afterwards analyzed and brought down by Bina. So that means that even the level of Chachma is connected with analysis and comprehension. This idea that we say that the Nekuda of Chachma itself comes down to Bina, it's not just a source for Bina, but it remains above the Bina. That's what the Zohar says about the relationship between Chachma and Bina, that is like a point in a palace. Bina is a palace, it has all this broadness. Chachma is the Nekuda, but it's not a Nekuda that's outside of the palace. It's inside. The Nekuda of the Chachma is embedded in the Bina. Since the Nekuda of the Chachma is embedded in the Bina, line 21, Vim came, Gam Nekuda Chachma in the Sichli. Also, the point of the Chachma is also an intellectual thing. It's something that has to do with the world of intellect. Therefore, since it has to do with the world of intellect, therefore, also the level of the Kudus HaChachma, when we say less Machshavet Tisabei, it applies for the Nekuda of Chachma as well, that the Nekuda of Chachma cannot grasp Hashem's essence. So now the Rebbe is going to work his way higher in the concept of Chachma. Other occasions we've mentioned that there are different levels of Chachma. There is the Nekuda of Chachma, the Barak HaMavrik, that's like the lowest level. That talks about in Perek Gimel and Tanya. Then there's a level that's like Re'iyah Sichlis. We're going to talk about from the Mimer. Now he's going to talk about something called Hanacha Sichlis, like something that's like it's not exactly that, but when you say that something is axiomatic, it's like a rule, it's a given, it's taken for granted a certain idea. That's also a level of Chachma, but a higher level of Chachma, it's a level of Chachma that is higher than the Nekuda of Chachma. The Rebbe is going to explain that even that higher level of Chachma also cannot grasp Hashem's essence. Line 23. In addition to this, is also this the given of seichel. But the seichel in Yiddish they call it the upleg. The fact that it's an accepted thing, it's a given thing. It's beyond that level of the point where it's an actual idea, but an idea the way it's not point. This means what does it mean? Hanacha sichlis. Hanacha sichlis means that such was the way it was accepted. This is the way something was set in his mind in a way beyond reason. How do we know it's beyond reason? For this reason, line 26. Top of the next page, when they ask him the reason for it, he will not know an answer. He will not be able to give an answer. Since it's not in a way of comprehension, it's not in a logical way, it's just a given. Rather, this is the way the thing sets by him. By him. On the other hand, because this is something that is set in his mind, he doesn't need an explanation because the matter is already something that's already set by him. Still in all. So that is the idea of something that is set and accepted in the person's mind. There's a famous example that there's a machlokes between the Rav and I don't remember right now the Chachamim concerning a certain halacha, and they asked him a question that he couldn't answer. Now, in other cases, it says when the Tanoim and Amoraim were challenged and they had no answer, okay, they said, you're right, you have a correct proof. But the Rav didn't answer, and he still remained by it. And according to some opinions, we pass him according to Rav. Why? Because he had it in such a way of a hanacha sichlis beyond the level of explanation. Okay, so hanacha sichlis seems to be beyond comprehension. So maybe the hanacha sichlis is able. Maybe that's a level of chachma that could be tfisa bey. The Zohar doesn't say that. The Zohar says leis machshavet tfisa bey, including also the chachma, even the level of the hanacha sichlis. Line 4, Mekalmakum still in all, Harigam hanacha zui hanacha sichlis. Also, this given is still an intellectual given. Therefore, it has a relationship. It still connects with the understanding and comprehension of bina. Therefore, even this level of the hanacha sichlis, the higher level of chachma, it's not possible for it to be able to grasp the Eibush. Okay. Any questions before we go to the next paragraph? Okay, page Zion, line 8. So, like I said before, the Rebbe is going to go up further and deeper in Chachma, a level even higher than that, and explain that even that level is not something that can grasp the Eibush. The Rebbe is going to connect it with the word machshav, because it says less machshavet tfisabek. Pratis yoser, more specifically in the machshava, less machshavet tfisabek klal, where it says machshavet in this phrase of the Zohar that no thought can grasp them whatsoever. Koi al madreges hachachma belvad is referring specifically to the level of chachma. Before we said less machshavet beklal is talking about any type of asagya, any type of intellect, bina and chachma. Here we're going to talk about that machshava itself. The word machshava is really indicating chachma. How come? Because look, it says in Zohar, machshava v'yoivla lo'isparish la'almin, that machshava and yovel were not revealed to the world. So from the fact that it says machshava and yoivla, that means machshava is different than yovel. So he says as follows: yoivla hu bechinas bin. Yoivla is the level of bina. We know that yovel is the level of the 50 years. That's also the idea of the 50 sha'alim of bina. So when you say there's machshava and yovel were not revealed to the world, and yovel is going on bina, therefore machshava bechinas chachma. Hinei machshava hu oisis chashav ma. The word machshava can be divided into the three middle letters is chashav, and the two letters at the beginning, at the end is ma. Similar to what we say, chachma is kayachma. So he explains as follows: chashav and ma are two levels in chachma, one higher than the other. Chashav, line 14, the level of chashav, that's the level of chachma, which is, that we said before, of the hanacha sichlis, that type of premise, that type of given, that's higher than normal seichel, higher even than the nekuda of chachma. Ma is the level that's even higher than the hanacha sichlis. It's the level of the vision of chachma. That the level of the of chachma is higher, not just than the point of the chachma that comes afterwards into the understanding, comprehension of binam. It's even higher than this type of intellectual level of a given and a premise. And why is that higher than that? Because vision, seeing something, has nothing to do with the idea of understanding whatsoever. As practically speaking, in physical sight, when a person sees something, it doesn't have to make sense. Intellect is not dependent on vision, and the other way around. Vision is not dependent on intellect. So when we talk about the level of chachma, it's the level of re'iyah the chachma, and therefore it's called ma, because it's completely something that's seemingly without anything tangible, anything graspable over there. Still, that is something that is totally removed from Avon of Asag. So here we spoke about three levels of chachma. There's the nekuda, that's the lowest level. Second level is the hanacha sichlis, into the word chashav. Then there's riyah the chachma, the level of ma. But we say less machshava tfisa beklal. Not only the chashav part of machshava, but even the ma part of machshava cannot grasp. The end of line 18, Valzen, them are considering this, it says, less machshava tfisa beklal, no thought can grasp it whatsoever. Sheklolis in machshava, the general idea of thought. Loirak bechinas chashav, not just the level of the chashav of the thought, which is the hanacha sichlis, but elagam bechinas ma, even the level of ma, the level of the re'iyah sichlis, ain't a teufels batzmusi is but doesn't grasp Hashem's essence. The question is why? Previously, we explained that the reason why something cannot grasp Hashem's essence is because Hashem is unlimited. What happens over here that the Ma is completely a level of Re'iyah. As we said, it doesn't have to do with Seichel, seemingly. So why can't it have a tfisa in Hashem's essence? So the Rebbe explains, line 21, because even the level of Chachma, which is Ma'av Chachma, the vision of Chachma, affects an addition and an increase in the light in the Hanacha Sichlis. It also adds to the understanding and comprehension of the intellect. Therefore, even the vision part of Chachma, Mishum Zem, which it's connected with understanding and comprehension. Therefore, it cannot grasp in Hashem's essence. Now, normally we would talk about this when we're talking about all these levels. We're talking about, first and foremost, we're talking about the person's level of Chachma, the person's level of Bina, the person's level of Riyah Sichlis. All of these levels cannot grasp Hashem's essence. But what about the way these levels are in the highest, most places in the Seder Shtalshus? The Rebbe goes on to say in line 25, so too it's also in what's called the early thought of primordial man, brought down to the level of Adam Kadmon Ak, known by its Rosh Tevis, is a level that precedes the entire Seder Ishtalshus. Therefore, it seemingly is divorced from any type of limitations and constrictions. But when the Zohar says, and it has a level, it's called Machshava Hagduma, the early thought. That early thought is a level that pictured all the world in a general, all-encompassing way, in one glance, not in detail, but just took everything in as one and included everything as one. So even that level of machshava, when the Zohar says less machshava tfisa beklal, it's referring to, because no thought can grasp. It doesn't just say only human thought can't grasp, or only the thought that Atzilus can't grasp. But it says no thought. Wherever you use the term thought, it's not possible to grasp the Eibishter, meaning even the level of the early thought, the first thought that's to be found, then Ak can't grasp the Eibishter. Why is that so? We keep on top of page Ches. Since it's called thought, therefore it's connected and associated with understanding and comprehension. The very fact that you're calling it machshava, that means it has some relationship, so very distant, but it has some relationship to the idea of understanding and comprehension. Therefore, it cannot grasp Hashem's very essence. And tomorrow we'll go on to explaining about how not just thought, but even love of Hashem and so on are totally removed from Hashem's essence in general. Any questions?
So this is talking